Careful, Rambo. Captain Rambo. Watch it.
WandaVision Episode 4 finally brings some answers to some of the questions we all have about this wacky show, and some things are starting to make sense, but there's still plenty we're still wondering about. Directed by Matt Shakman, this episode shows us everything we've already seen, but from a different point of view, plus some new revelations about why Vision is seemingly alive, a lot of cool stuff about Sword, and the age-old question of who is behind this wacky retro simulation. But before we get into all of that, we must warn you. We are unpacking some pretty big spoilers from this episode, so if you haven't seen it yet, now would be a great time to disappear into an alternate reality while we break it all down.
Where is Geraldine?
Alright, now that we're past the spoiler warning, let's get to the big reveal. We all knew it, now it's 100% confirmed. Vision is dead. Like, dead. Last week we speculated that WandaVision might just turn out to be the most messed up superhero weekend at Bernie's situation imaginable, and yeah, it seems like we kinda nailed it there, so gold star for us, I guess. We'll get to everything we think that means in a second, but first, let's recap. Monica Rambeau is an ex-space pilot and a survivor of Thanos' snap, or the blip as they call it in universe, when half of Earth's population, including Monica, got erased from existence, only to reappear 5 years later thanks to the exploits of a single heroic rat in Avengers Endgame, which we're assuming you've seen since it's literally the most successful film in human history. Monica works for SWORD, an agency launched by her mother, Maria Rambeau, and best friend Captain Marvel. Monica teams with FBI agent Jimmy Woo to get to the bottom of a weird Bermuda hexagon-type situation going down in Westview, New Jersey. One small problem.
No such place.
There's a weird energy field masking the town, so Monica sends in a drone, and Monica Rambeau just got sucked into it. SWORD brings in agents to hunt for her and to learn more about the energy field. Enter FBI agent Jimmy Woo from Ant-Man and the Wasp, and Darcy Lewis from Thor and Thor the Dark World, aka Thor and Loki's Infinite Playlist. The lady with the sword notebook, that's Darcy.
So you're saying the universe created a sitcom starring 2 Avengers?
Catch up, Woo, we're 4 episodes in already. Anyway, Darcy and Agent Woo get all Pepe Sylvia with it and figure out that all of the residents of WandaVision are real people and use their whiteboard to basically ask all the same questions we've been asking since this show started. Side note, none of the real names of the Westview residents line up with anyone in the credits of the show within a show from previous episodes, which rolled again this episode, and fans have been trying to decipher those names since the jump, but they don't seem to be real people in our reality or nods to anyone in the MCU, possibly some deep-cut Easter eggs no one's figured out yet? Anyway, this episode showed us everything WandaVision has already shown us before, but with more info and from a different point of view. That drone, it was the Technicolor helicopter. The beekeeper, a probably really stinky sword agent, and Vision, bricked, just like we suspected. And we get more of last week's tense confrontation between Wanda and Monica. Episode 4 ends about the same way Episode 3 did, with SWORD descending on Monica Rambeau after she got ejected from Wanda's sim. Also, SWORD drew the exact same conclusion as we did when it comes to who's actually behind all of this.
It's all Wanda.
Also confirmed in this episode is what lots of fans suspected about SWORD. They're not behind Wanda's sim, and they're trying to understand it so they can help. It's also pretty clear that SWORD is the new stand-in for S.H.I.E.L.D. We chatted with MCU mastermind Kevin Feige about the choice to include SWORD in WandaVision, and here's what he had to say.
You'll see as the show continues that was an organization that we wanted to introduce and begin to see and seed throughout certain parts of the MCU.
We learned that not only is Monica Rambeau a former pilot and captain in the SWORD command structure, but her mom Maria Rambeau actually founded the agency. Monica got snapped by Thanos and her mom died while she was gone. When Monica's blipped back into existence thanks to the Hulk snap in Endgame, she finds that SWORD is run by a guy we should all immediately suspect is a bad guy, thanks to Robert Redford's S.H.I.E.L.D. director Pierce from Captain America: The Winter Soldier.
I guess I've got the floor.
But I digress. The advent of SWORD seems to be directly tied to the existence of Captain Marvel. Slightly different from the comics version, the SW in this SWORD acronym stands for Sentient Weapon, which seems like it's a direct reference to Captain Marvel, especially since Monica Rambeau and Carol Danvers were best friends. So will Monica eventually take her mother's place and become the director of SWORD? It's possible, and it's pretty clear that Monica would prefer that, but we think it's more likely that Captain Rambeau will get her powers and become a superhero in her own right. We did a Canon Fodder about that a few weeks ago. We'll link you to that at the end.
He's dead, right? Not blipped. dead.
Darcy asked the thing that every MCU fan asked as soon as Paul Bettany and Vision were cast in this show, and if you take a close look at Agent Wu's whiteboard, it's clear that they don't get it either. How is Vision alive? Simple answer, he's not. He's still dead. While all, or at least most of Wanda and Vision's neighbors seem to be real people with backstories and New Jersey driver's licenses, a very dead Vision is seemingly being animated and puppeted by Wanda and her powers. Pretty dark stuff, but Marvel Comics readers know that Wanda Maximoff is prone to this kind of thing. As for the why, well, that should be pretty obvious. Wanda's having a hard time dealing with the hard L's she's taken in real life, so she created her own version of reality where she and Vision both live happily ever after. Why is she using classic TV sitcoms as the template for this simulation/alt reality she's created? That's a question Agent Wu and the Sword Task Force have too, and we're still waiting on a clear answer for that. Maybe that's all they got on TV in Sokovia. In the meantime, Wanda and the very dead Vision settle down to watch some TV with their possibly demonic twin sons Tommy and Billy. Darcy, Wu, and the Sword Task Force agree with us that Wanda is creating and controlling the Westview anomaly, but the twins themselves still make us think there could be a hidden villain pulling Wanda's strings. Is it the demon Mephisto? Is it Agatha Harkness / nosy neighbor Agnes? We're still trying to connect the dots ourselves, but let us know what you think in the comments. Okay, no fake commercials this time, but we still got lots of Easter eggs this week. We'll run them down. Here we go. The Blip! If you wondered what it looked like when all the poor unfortunate snapped away souls came back, well, we saw exactly what it looked like, and it looked messy.
Lieutenant Trouble.
Lieutenant Trouble was Carol Danvers' pet nickname for her buddy Monica Rambeau when she was a kid. And speaking of nicknames, Monica's mom Maria used the handle Photon, which is one of her daughter's many superhero code names in the pages of Marvel Comics. And if Monica does get powers on the screen, big or small, this could be planting the seed of how she picks her cool superhero handle. The perimeter of the Westview anomaly is a hexagon, and it looks like the shape is a reference to Wanda's hex casting powers and not AIM like we suspected earlier. Speaking of Westview, formerly known as Eastview, the first half of that word could be a nod to the Wizard of Oz's Wicked Witch of the West and Good Witch of the East, and view as well, another word for vision. Westview, WandaVision. That's surprising they didn't just set it in West Virginia. Agent Wu has some sick card tricks, which he probably learned in between getting screwed over by Scott Lang. Lots of Easter eggs on Wu's whiteboard, but check this out. Who's behind this? Great question. Is any of this connected to the Skrulls? We do have a Secret Invasion show on the way.
You never know when you're gonna need to borrow some sugar.
What do you think? Why is Wanda using TV sitcoms to create her own reality? And is a secret villain still lurking in the shadows? Let's hear your best theories in the comments below. Anyway, thanks for watching this episode of Canon Fodder. For more on WandaVision, take a look at the sinister underlying meaning of those twins, as well as Monica Rambeau's big hidden MCU backstory. And for everything else MCU, WandaVision, or otherwise, be sure to follow and subscribe to IGN wherever you like to watch.
I have everything under control.